Hello, and welcome to the Tri-City Herald Editorial Board with our 8th District Representative candidates for Position 1. We have Patrick Guettner and Stephanie Barnard, and we're going to give each of them 2 minutes for an opening statement. First, I'll introduce our side, the Tri-City Herald team. I'm Cecilia Rexis, and I'm the editorial page editor for the Tri-City Herald. And we have Ken Robertson. He is our retired executive editor. And we have Jack Briggs. He's our retired publisher. And we have a community rep. That's Mike Paoli. So we're all here. Great. So I guess I'm just going to pick Patrick. You're on my left. So I'm going to start with you.
How about ladies first?
You want ladies first? You okay with that, Stephanie? Okay. All right, Stephanie. So whenever you're ready.
Okay, I am muted, and I'm going to set my timer because I know I only have 2 minutes. So here we go.
Okay. All righty.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Barnard. I'm running for Position 1 for the House of Representatives for the 8th Legislative District. That's the open seat left by Brad Clippert when he decided to run for Congress. It is such an honor to be before the Ed Board here today, and I thank you so much for your time. I have worked very hard in politics for decades, and my most recent job has been at the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce as the Government and Regional Affairs Director. That led to the position that I hold now, which is the Strategic Projects Director. And I also am the brand new Business Resource Navigator. I'm really, really excited about that. It's a new program. We're joining forces with Benton County to provide $3 million in funds to businesses in Benton County to help them to get back on their feet and to really build and grow. So really excited about that program. I'm a 30-year Tri-Citian. I love it here. I moved here from Seattle and put down our roots. I have 6 children. 2 of them still live at home. I have an 18-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son that both go to Chiawana High School. So they are great kids. So one of the things that I did before working at the chamber was I was a lobbyist, a contract lobbyist for DCI out of Washington, D.C. And one of the projects I worked on was the Millennium Bulk Terminal, as well as the Lower Snake River Dam. So very active in those areas, even before getting paid for it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I thank you for allowing me to express my ideas on this particular format. My name is Patrick Guettner. I'm a candidate for Legislative District 8, Position 1 in the Washington State House. This position has been held for 14 years by Brad Clippert. I want to thank him for his long tenure of service. I can't replace Brad, but maybe I can succeed him. A little bit about me. My family and I have been here in the Tri-Cities for 20 years. We raised 3 sons. They're all grown and gone. They were all Eagle Scouts. They are now debt-free college graduates. The youngest just finished serving 2 tours of duty in the Coast Guard. We are very thankful for the opportunity that this area provides in raising and educating children and all the other cultural activities that go on here, and that's why we stay. I was raised on a small farm. I did not have the farming DNA that my dad did, but I did have an interest in science and technology, and therefore I've spent some 40 years in science technology, basically aerospace and the nuclear fields. But along the way, I made sure that I participated in community services. As such, I was a scoutmaster. In fact, I won the Outstanding Committeeman of the Blue Mountain District of the Boy Scouts of America a few years ago. I was in the USJCs for many years. I've been involved in politics for many years. for 15 years or so as a precinct committee officer here in Franklin County, and also as vice chairman and chairman of the Franklin County Republican Party. I consider that to be my civic duty to participate like that. And so I'll continue my message afterward.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much, Patrick. So I'll ask the first question. You're both Republicans. So what do you think separates you from your opponent? So Stephanie, I'll go ahead and ask you, what separates you, do you think, from Patrick?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question. I think we align pretty well politically. I have a lot more of the business background, and I feel like I have worked across the aisle a great deal as far as politically speaking, because I've got to represent all members of the regional chamber when I'm lobbying, and I need to call and talk to leaders on both sides and both parties. And so I think there is definitely a well-roundedness to my work. The other part of that is I've been a member, and right now I actually just got elected. Well, voluntold that I'm the new vice chair for the Tri-City Civility Caucus, and I can tell you a little bit more about that later if there's time.
Okay, great. Okay, Patrick, what do you think separates the two of you the most?
Well, whether you're a Democrat, Independent, or Republican, we share many interests across the board here in the Tri-Cities. My experience involves 40 years of project management, engineering, science, and technology. Now, this is a science and technology area. We have over 1,000 PhDs here working in these areas of engineering science at Penn and other places. And we've been a science and technology town since the Manhattan Project in the 1940s during World War II. And I kind of think we need to have that type of background in our legislature. It's kind of scarce, in my opinion, in that area. And we are facing a tremendous advance in science and technology across the board in many areas. Agriculture, transportation, energy, aerospace, you name it. And once we get this area cleaned up out here in Hanford, we can endeavor to utilize our tremendous resources and education and everything here to bring our talent to the front to address all these advantages and make sure that we're a part of this tremendous advance that's going to take place. I also am very experienced in many projects, multi-million-dollar projects, and that's what we want to see happen here: bring family wage jobs here, and to utilize and maintain our tremendous number of students, particularly the STEM students, science, technology, engineering, and math. We have the resources to do it. We have a wonderful educational base here, and we have a wonderful foundation here of infrastructure and talent and all kinds of community services to make that happen. And I wish to do that in the legislature.
So what kind of multi-million projects did you help lead then, Patrick?
Well, you've probably heard of Reagan's Star Wars, the Strategic Defense Initiative. I worked on that. And of course, that was defunct under Clinton when they defunded it, but it may still be being worked on. But those things is what I worked on.
So, Stephanie, I'll let you list your priorities, and then Patrick, you can do that too. You were kind of on a roll there, and I cut you off, so we might as well let you continue that thought and let us know what's driving you to run for this office.
Sure. I will just, if I may, and you can say no, that's fine. I just wanted to comment about the, the experience and my knowledge and understanding of clean energy here in the Tri-Cities.
Sure.
And our real nexus of resources that we have that we can, and I agree with Patrick that there is so much opportunity in energy in the Tri-Cities. And, with David Reblock from Tridec and Jason Herbert from Energy Northwest, all three of us put together the first Clean Energy Summit. We worked with Nick Bumpus from Local 598, and that was back in the day when we used to be with 598. And we put together the Clean Energy Summit, and we had Carol Browner come to the Tri-Cities, who's the energy czar under Obama, and to talk about the importance of nuclear. So those are the kind of crossover Republican-Democrat coalition building that I believe it's going. Oops, I should have turned off my phone. I'm sorry, someone's calling me. So those are the kind of efforts that I lead, and I am also the staff lead for My Tri 2030, the regional vision, the the Energy Council. So the Energy Council is made up of community leaders in energy, and we work directly with MCEI, which is another nuclear and energy focused committee in the Tri-Cities, and to really develop, what are our objectives here in the Tri-Cities so that we can all have a voice. And so we bring together people to talk about energy and how to solve those problems, every week. We have monthly meetings, but there are conversations and things going on with biofuels and advanced nuclear and SMR, not just to build an SMR, but manufacturing and how to become a manufacturing hub here in the Tri-Cities for all things nuclear. We're also talking about hydro and how we can have storage facilities or battery storage as well. And with a national laboratory, with what we have and the resources we have here, how do we best leverage those things that we have to really create the Tri-Cities as the clean energy hub for Washington and for the country?
Did you want to chime in there at all, Patrick, or just
I
list
can,
your priorities?
I can chime in, I guess. I am very big on energy development here. We're going to be facing tremendous challenges as far as providing energy as we continue through the next decade. Jay Inslee, of course, wants us to all have an electrical car. Biden just stated he wants to put some charging stations all throughout the nation. This is going to take tremendous amounts of electrical energy. Now, we do have the dams. I'm in favor of keeping those dams. There's no safer, more economical way to produce electricity than hydrological dams. I'm also in favor of developing other areas of energy development, such as the small nuclear modular reactors, which we can do here in this town. This is already underway in a lot of other areas. For example, the Tennessee Valley Authority is replacing its old coal-fired steam plants with SMRs. We can do the same here. We can actually build these here, manufacture them, and locate them, take them to the site, particularly in small towns that can have their own energy production facilities. I am against these windmills. This company is wanting to build 284 windmills on a 24-mile stretch of the crest of the Horse Heaven Hills. I've done the math. That's one about every 150 yards. Want that to be a pretty site. We can do better than that. Wind energy produces only 2% of the energy in this country, and we cannot survive on 2% production there with just windmills. We want to develop energy capabilities that will not only be short-term, but long-term.
Okay, great. Yeah, well, that's great to cover energy. That's wonderful. So why don't you just list some of your priorities besides energy? Do you have anything else are there certain committees you'd want to participate in, Stephanie? And we'll let Patrick ask that too. Do you have any other ideas about that?
Ideas about what now?
What legislative committees you would want to serve on? Like what areas would you?
Well, technology committees involved with agricultural and also energy. There's tremendous science and development in the agricultural area. For example, biosyn is an area that we can really cash in on here. We have a tremendous agricultural base here. the North Franklin County farmers are just producing a cornucopia of wonderful products, and they are in this hub right here in Pasco. They're being transported throughout the country. The Tri-City Herald just today ran an article about this new advanced reeser plant they're building. And we also have the Amazon warehouses coming in. So we just have tremendous opportunities here to expand and even improve our quality of life here in the Tri-Cities. So I'm running to make sure that these particular issues are brought to the fore and that something actually happens to continue them.
Well, one of my priorities, and then I'll get into my committee selections. My top priority is affordability. I'm a single mom, and I pretty much right now I'm living paycheck to paycheck. And the price of gas and the price of housing, the price of food, with inflation, my dollar isn't stretching the way it used to. Fortunately, I'm a really frugal person, but I am the person that answered those phone calls during COVID from the businesses that they were closed. They had no idea how they were going to feed their family, educate their family. Their kids weren't going to school. They didn't know what to do with their kids. They had no broadband. It's hard for people to even afford to fill up their gas tank right now if they work across town, because they don't, it's just too much. And we've got to do something about that. There are so many ways to help. I don't think that hitting small businesses is going to with increased UI rates, which I just saw this morning, or even higher rates for homes, just to slow down the market a bit. We're really going to need to see some tax relief. And with our revenue forecast that we just got yesterday morning for September, it was I want to say over $1 billion or $1.5 billion in additional revenue than what we were expecting. That is we have a perfect prime opportunity to give our citizens from Washington a tax break or some incentives. And it's not the time to be increasing taxes, especially unemployment insurance that hits small business the most, and even the increased gas costs from the low carbon fuel standard. We need to rework some of these policies that are not working for the majority of Washingtonians that can't afford. That just the cost of living is just too great. It's a burden. So we've got to do something to help.
Okay. Did you want to add anything to that, Patrick, about the economy?
Yeah, first of all, I sympathize with all these people who are having a hard time financially. Fortunately, I'm not affected by that, but I do empathize with these people. Certainly, tax relief is one way we can go about maybe relieving some of the burden on them. But getting back to how we can end these policies, which have proven to be very poorly made choices coming out of Washington, D.C., we need to get our economy back on track. We are facing recession. We've got all these high interest rates. Every time I go to the grocery store here, the prices escalate. I know paper towels, I was paying $1.29 for a roll for those here no more than 2 or 3 months ago, and now they're $2.59. So I know how it's affecting everybody. For us immediately here in the Tri-Cities, the best thing we can do is continue to bring these big companies in here to provide family wage jobs. Also try to get tax relief from the state. As far as, we have the highest gas tax in the nation. We can we can take off some of that to mitigate some of these problems. We can ease up on our business taxes, particularly with the L&I taxes that these small businesses have to pay. And we can start there and restore some kind of balance to our economy to make it fair and make everyone have a fair chance at making a good living. This is a very complex problem. It's facing us nationally and statewide also. And I plan to go to the legislature to make sure that we're on the right track. I do not believe in throwing money at projects or programs or whatever. For example, a lot of it can be wasted. All this COVID money, as you well know, has been wasted and misspent illegally, billions and billions of dollars. So that the government throwing the money at the problem is not going to solve that. We've got to come up with ways to oversee that situation and make sure the people who need it the most are getting it.
I'm going to see if there's any other questions from my colleagues here. Go ahead, Jack.
We have Democrats in this race, looking at this race and having to decide which of you two might fit their more social aspects of life. With the Supreme Court forcing many of those private decisions before, now forcing them down to the state level. Can you tell us a little bit about your own philosophy on things? And first of all, perhaps you could start out by telling us, did Trump win the last election? And then we can deal with the other issues. Stephanie?
Sure. The first part of your question is, am I pro-life or pro-choice, right?
No, this part of my question is, do you feel Trump won the last election?
I can say from the state of Washington, talking to Kim Wyman and Matt Beaton, that no, as far as Washington State is concerned, no, the elections were handled well and fairly in the state of Washington. If there are other concerns in other states, I don't know why we wouldn't look into them, but at the same time, overall, I don't see that Trump won the last election. No, it was Joe Biden that took that. I'm sure there was somehow something didn't work right somewhere, but I think that's always been the case. I would like to see the data, and I haven't really seen that yet. So if whoever's looking into that has some something to show that will show us that there was some real fraud going on, then I'll look at it. I mean, I'm willing to take a look at it. But no, I think that if there was fraud, I don't think it was enough to change the outcome of the election. And then
Patrick, you said that
mail-in voting lends itself to inherent fraud. I agree with that. The European countries have tried mail-in voting for many years. They decided to scrap it all. None of them have that anymore. And I'd like to see it eliminated here. I like the old system that I first voted in. I had to wait till I was 21 years old to vote. And I went to the local polling station and I showed my ID and my voter registration card, and I voted legally and without any type of suspicion as to fraud on my part or anybody else. This is the best way, I think, to do it. As far as Trump winning the election, there's no way I can know. I do know that I've been watching the returns for presidential elections since the days of Eisenhower and Adlai Stevenson. And I do know that for some reason, somewhere around 2 o'clock in the morning, that the win, the number of votes for Trump started diminishing, and the ones for Biden all of a sudden dramatically increased. That was suspicious to me. So I can't say who won the election, but there is, I smell something fishy about the whole thing. My political philosophy, I think, Jack, that you wanted to ask about is number one, being raised on a farm where you have to grow everything on your own. There's no such thing as a free lunch. I also believe in a philosophy of, you can feed a man for a day by giving him fish, but you can also teach him how to fish, and he can feed himself for a lifetime. I believe in the independence and freedom we have in America to make your own opportunities and to do them legally and with your own sweat of your own brow. And that's why people are coming in here in an invasion type force.
Stephanie, you held up your hand like you wanted to say something.
Just wanted to, a thought came to my mind that, if there was one thing that I'd be really careful about, that would be that same day voter registration, because, you've got to be in this country for longer than a day. I think it's constitutionally, I would have to look at that, but I guess I would be really cautious if there was changes that wanted to make same day voter registration so that you could vote the same day that you registered. And I just feel like we ought to be a little cautious about that and have it. People coming into this country, which we want them to feel welcome, but I would say at least some amount of time should pass rather than just one same day. So I would just be cautious about that.
I don't want to monopolize it, but I'm just wondering if you can very briefly tell me your feeling on abortion.
I'm pro-life. I always have been. The sanctity of human life is important to me. Having said that, I do believe that there are exceptions when the health of the mother is in jeopardy. And incest, rape, and there would be a few other exceptions. And I think that's a decision personally to be made between a doctor and a woman and her doctor.
Patrick.
I have a reverence for life, and hope everyone else does too. I am for the more liberal stance on abortion. I think women should be afforded that right. There's no more important rights in America than individual rights as to your own health and safety. I believe a woman and her doctor should make the decision as to whether or not an abortion is proper in a case-by-case basis. It should not be, just out and out banned for certain reasons such as rape or incest. There's a myriad of reasons to have an abortion, such as an ectopic pregnancy, where it actually happens outside the uterus. This is a very medically threatening situation for a woman, and abortion is really the only answer in those positions. There's many other types of reasons for a woman to have an abortion, and they should be given that right. Of course, using their own sense of
Thank you.
properness.
Matt, you had
I
a
wanted
question?
to ask Stephanie for her views on the removal of the lower Snake River dams and on all of the windmills we have surrounding the Tri-Cities. Have you thought about this?
Yes, I've actually lobbied for the lower Snake River dams. That's something that I have been involved in, protecting those dams. I feel like it's a critical piece of infrastructure that brings us reliable, affordable energy to this region that is we can't turn away from that. On the other hand, windmills, okay, you've heard it a million times. When the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow, solar and wind are not going to be effective, and they're not going to be available to us to use when we need them. So the way I see the wind farm is that the footprint, the environmental footprint that creates is so huge for the return of energy that we actually get. So all of that land and all of those resources that it takes to put up those windmills, to have them running, and land, there's just a vast expanse of the amount of land that would need to be used to have those be functional. I think it's prohibitive. And we're not gaining anything from that here in the Tri-Cities, except for a few jobs. Yes, that's true. But I believe a better use of resources is a smaller footprint for an advanced reactor or two, which much smaller amount of space with a much higher return for our investment. So So it may be a little larger, not a little, it might be quite a bit larger investment for advanced reactors, but the return on that investment is so much greater than what the return that would come from a wind farm. So, I also think that there are other environmental reasons to not support the wind farm, and there's also other personal reasons. I know, it's just our viewscape is important to Tri-Citians. I was the one that created the well, not me personally, but the chamber that I work for. I was part of that, building out that survey, where 2,220, I remember that because it's an easy number, of our members of our community took that survey within a matter of it was a short amount of time. And 79 point something percent of Tri-Citians did not think that was worth it. The wind farm, they did not agree, and they didn't think that the costs to our environment and to our view shed and other reasons, they didn't approve of that. So I think my opinion is shared with the vast majority of Tri-Citians.
Does anyone else have a question before
I'm just wondering how Patrick considers he still has a viable candidacy win. Patrick, how are you going to catch up? You've got 16,000 votes behind. She got 3 votes for every one. What's your plan to stay in this race? How are you going to do it?
Well, right now I'm doing walking tours of every neighborhood in the 8th district, and I'm leaving a card at every house that doesn't have a non-soliciting sign on it. And I'm handing out these cards every time I go to the grocery store, to the gasoline station, whatever. It's just a person-to-person contact that I'm making. And of course, this venue here that we're sharing today is another way that I plan to get my message out.
Patrick and Stephanie, I've looked at both your websites, and the question is for Patrick, because I've looked at Stephanie's website and I've seen a fairly long list of endorsements there, and I think you should maybe take an opportunity. I'd like to hear who your endorsements are so everyone else can hear. I'd like to start with Patrick, and Patrick, can you tell us about who is endorsing your campaign, either individuals or groups?
I don't have any endorsements. I have not sought endorsements, nor have I sought any money. I'm just going person to person, house to house, to solicit the votes that I need.
And I respect that, Patrick. I think there's value there to what you're saying and how you're handling the campaign. So, I've received a lot of endorsements. Oh, I actually just today received the endorsement of AWB, the Association of Washington Business. So I'm really, really excited about that, because I sit on 7 committees for AWB, or at least I should say I did sit on 7 committees for AWB: energy, transportation, health, business law, environment. I'm forgetting something. Oh, and I also am on the Grassroots Alliance Committee for AWB, and the tax committee. So I've been on those committees and sat with AWB and their membership for 4 years, and I will miss it, but I hope to be able to actually be in action as a legislator come January in the next session. So I'm really excited about that. The other endorsement, Michael, thanks for asking, that I just got yesterday was the Washington Farm Bureau. So I'm really pleased, because I worked really hard on legislation last year in support, just to make sure that those, the riparian buffer bill didn't go through. The chamber, supports ag. I I have supported ag for years, and we didn't want to see that bill go through. Also, the overtime bill, I worked very hard to try to mitigate some of that disastrous policy for our agricultural community here in the Tri-City.
I thank you, Stephanie. I'd like to ask a follow-up for you, Patrick, because endorsements can have a lot of influence on voters out there. So I'd like to address the question with you for fairness' sake. Can you give us a little more explanation of why you did not choose to seek endorsements?
Well, one of the reasons is that I do not consider endorsements all that critical. It'll be the voters of the 8th District that will make a decision on me. Most of the endorsements that you see others get are from people that are really unknown to the general populace at large. And so I just don't think it's a critical thing to have endorsements. And I certainly don't want to accept any money either, because I don't want to be beholden to anybody. My position is to get out there, shake hands, knock on doors, spread my cards around, and make sure that I have a personal contact with people, more so than having this myriad of endorsements that I don't feel that are that critical.
I listened with interest to hear both of you talk about perhaps reducing the gas tax. And I have a question that I'd like both of you to answer that just jumps to my brain out of that. And that is, why do you think if the gas tax is reduced, that the oil companies are going to pass that savings on to the consumer? Because frankly, the oil companies have been making windfall profits for the last year and a half. And did they ever reduce their prices? Not for about 14 months. And they only did because supply finally began to catch up. So what is there that gives you faith that the oil companies will say, gee, we owe it to ourselves to give that money back to the people? And if you don't have an explanation there, is there something you think you could do that would allow that to that money to flow back to the people who've been paying the taxes?
Oh my goodness, I agree with you wholeheartedly. No, I don't think they'll give us, I think that supply and demand, right? So, but what we can do is the low carbon fuel standard. I mean, if you think about how that legislation is structured, what that is pulling special things in gas to put it in layman's terms, so that there's less emissions. We don't want greenhouse gases, right? So the low carbon fuel standard, number one, we can do so many other things to reduce greenhouse gases, and that piece of legislation is going to hit the people in our community that will feel it the most. It's a very regressive piece of legislation. And if we got rid of the low carbon fuel standard, there are other ways to use that money okay, let me just tell you that the low carbon fuel is mostly produced in California. It's not even, I don't even know the refineries in the state of Washington that are getting any of those additional costs that we as Washingtonians are putting in to pay for this higher level of gasoline or product, a better product. So that's not helping. That really isn't helping, and it's not reducing greenhouse gases in a way that's even meaningful. So there's so many other ways to do that, and that's just one way of reducing costs for us that actually feel the pain of gas increased costs.
Patrick, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think the gasoline tax that the state collects is what, 24.9 cents per gallon. That is somewhat onerous, and I see some ways to reduce that, help out a little bit. I do believe in letting the free market play out with the companies and so forth. Yes, they're making a windfall, these oil companies, on our price per barrel, but it's coming down. It's gone from over $100 a barrel now to $78 a barrel today. And I think we need to let the market play out. We need to make sure that we do not have onerous taxes on the gasoline that they do service. We're very fortunate to have a very good distribution system for our gasoline products throughout this country. It's very handy to stop at a gasoline station, fill up, and move on. That you can't do that with an electrical car. But just to provide some relief, particularly the low-income people who need to get to work back and forth as economical as they can, I just would want to see that gas tax come down a little bit.
I do think that the gas tax is a lot higher than what Patrick had mentioned. It's a lot higher than 29 cents. But what we could do is implement more the 18th Amendment and have those funds that are brought in go towards transportation, rather than having those funds be parsed out in, you know, the capital budget or wherever they go. We can't have. We need to keep the gas tax going towards transportation so that the transportation packages like Move Ahead Washington doesn't then strip and steal from Peter to pay Paul. Why not keep the transportation money in transportation? So I really do feel like that's important to make sure that all of any taxes we do pay goes right back into transportation. So we're not, again, creating more taxes to get some maintenance and preservation for the state of Washington and our roads, which are the heart of commerce in any state. So that's one thing I would like to reiterate, and I think it's really important.
Okay, Matt, you had a question?
I do for both of them, and that is I would like for them to talk about police, gangs, murders in the Tri-Cities.
Why don't we let Patrick have a turn on public safety?
Okay, well, as we all know, particularly from reading the news and looking at the news on TV, our crime seems to be going up dramatically. Almost every day we see a murder of some kind. I'm a pro-law enforcement person, and what I mean by that is I support our police. We're one of the few countries in the world that have a wonderful police enforcement type situation. Some of the police in other countries are corrupt. We mostly have some good, honest policemen, and that helps us maintain the stability in our civilization that we do have. Policemen can certainly make mistakes, and they do, but all in all, I know lots of police officers here in town that are honest, good, hardworking people and public servants, and I support them in every endeavor that they do. I do believe that we need to probably increase our police force numbers around here. The crime is almost overwhelming, not only here, but nationwide. The police cannot stop it per se, but they can have a dramatic effect on bringing down crime through the regular patrols, making themselves visible. And we need to enforce the laws. We need good judges that will enforce the law as it should be to keep bails high so that these recidivist criminals cannot come back out and commit more crime. So I am all in all for our law enforcement people, and I really thank them for their service.
Stephanie?
I won't take too much time on this because I think some of the things Patrick said were well said. I do support our local law enforcement and state law enforcement. I have a deep and abiding respect for the blue, and I I consider them heroes of our community. And the one thing that I do feel is that their hands are somewhat tied because of the legislation that has recently passed. One of the things that I would like to see changed immediately is their ability to follow suspects in a vehicle. I think we need to trust that our officers know when it's time to let go, when it's time to stop, when there might be an elevated risk to pedestrians or other vehicles. So I think we ought to leave some of those things in the hands of our good officers that are trained well. I do understand that there is some training necessary to deal with the public in times where we've got mental health issues. The police more than anything need help with mental health situations that they face every single day. So we've got to support mental health and make sure that we're using those dollars in a way where we can get the biggest bang for the buck and really help this community to answer the questions and solve those problems that can become systemic if we're not careful.
One more. Talk to me about books that people who are on crusades and ban books, and about the what is being taught in school. And I would like to know, I don't think either of you is from Richland, but I would like to know if you think it's a very good idea for people who are sued for recall should get the school board to pay for it. Thank you for the lawyers. Either of you.
Pick one, Matt. Pick somebody.
Okay, Patrick.
Okay, Patrick.
Okay.
I think Matt was wondering about the issues over CRT and
Yes,
right, Matt.
yes,
That's kind of what
yes,
we were talking about. All the stuff over that and everything else. So.
My study of CRT, I'm strictly against teaching that in schools. It's invaded not only schools, but also our military, as I just read yesterday in an article. It is falsehoods. It is anti-American. It is racist, and it's not the American way. And it's certainly not something we need to be teaching our children.
I'll go ahead then. If Patrick, if you're done, are you going to talk about the recall or? Okay.
Richland recall.
Well, all I know is what I've read in the Tri-City Herald about this recall situation. This is a very local problem. I don't know if it's proper for me to even speak to it, but anyway, I do feel like that the three board members that are of concern here, I think they did what they thought was right, and I would support that unless they have gone outside the rules or gone into illegal actions or so forth. It is their prerogative to make that decision on their own as to whether or not their law bill should be paid or not. That'll be a question for the school board to make based on the circumstances, not for me to make.
So CRT, I oppose that curriculum. However, it's not currently not being taught in any of the schools here, and so I'm not sure how even one would police that. If there is someone in one of the school districts here locally that thought that was being taught, I don't know how the schools or the superintendents would really be able to police the teachers. I'm not sure. So I don't want to speak to something that I haven't really looked into that closely. I hesitate to say I don't know, but I really haven't taken a deep dive because we don't have that curriculum currently in our schools here locally. So it's going to be hard for me to say, but I certainly wouldn't support it if that became a state mandate at some point. I would not support that. But as for the recall, again, I follow the legislature closely. You ask me about the bills, and I can tell you, I have not, just full disclosure, I have not followed the school board issue that closely. So I know some of those women, and I don't know them well, but I think they're good people, and I think that I'm not sure how to respond. So I'm sorry, my dog is barking.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We're going to be winding up here pretty soon. Was there any other questions from the board? No. So I wanted to just ask you both, what question were you hoping we'd ask and that we didn't ask? So is there a topic that we haven't covered yet? Don't rehash something we've already discussed, but if there's something new that we haven't touched on that you really we're hoping we'd talk to you about, now's your chance. So Patrick, do you have anything on your mind that you would have liked us to have asked you about?
Well, I think the questions have been fair. I think they've been comprehensive enough to cover most of the subjects
Okay.
I was prepared to address.
Okay.
The only thing I would say is that, the fifth, the journalism profession is something that should be fair and balanced. And so I think the questions have been within those parameters. I will be glad to answer any questions anyone has concerning any other issue that may have not been brought up here. That's what I'm here to do. So thank you, and I'll pass it back.
Okay. What about you, Stephanie? Was there a topic you were wanting to?
I do see a big gap in one area that we haven't talked about today, and that's healthcare. Can you think of another legislative district that has 3 major hospitals all in the same district? I mean, I can't. Maybe Spokane and Seattle, but I don't know. We've got 3 major hospitals here. We've got a nursing shortage. We've got staff doctor shortages. Healthcare, I guess we brushed on it with the mental health, but this is a mammoth issue for the Tri-Cities. Healthcare, we are a retirement community. This is a healthcare driven community. We've got a cancer center. We've got, there are so many opportunities for growth in healthcare in this region, and we really need to help our hospitals thrive and be successful and get them the staff and the nurses. We need to somehow work on programs that will help Washington, not just the Tri-Cities, produce more doctors and nurses and healthcare staff in a way that we can meet the needs of our community. I know during COVID, there was a terrible shortage in the Tri-Cities. In-home medical care, they were having a hard time just staffing so that they could go meet with their clients on a daily basis. Those individuals in our community that don't want to be in a home, they weren't getting the service and the care that they needed. Our hospitals, even now, have staffing shortages, and to create mandates, nurse to patient ratios is not good for our rural community. And there is legislation that, last year that will really affect our local hospitals. And if you want to scare Catholic trios and lords, just talk about mandates for nurse patient ratios. It's so difficult because they're just having a hard time keeping it staffed as it is. So I really do think that if we want to support our local hospitals and our nurses and our doctors, we need to start thinking seriously about in what ways can we help both of those in tandem and work together as our healthcare workers and our healthcare providers and our healthcare institutions, so that we can really support this community in our growing population and our healthcare needs. So I think that was a big gap. But that's it. You guys asked great questions, and I just want to thank you so much for having us.
Oh, no, that was a good addition. Matt had a question, right, Matt?
No, it's not a question. I just wanted to tell Stephanie she ought to try to get a cardiologist in this town.
No, well,
He's going to be here more than 6 months.
Well, yeah, and I'm a cancer survivor. So I had uterine cancer 3 years ago. So I was treated at a cancer center, but my oncologist was out of Spokane. It was, my radiation, they did a great job here in the Tri-Cities, but we've got a lot of work to do to make it more accessible to our community and at a higher level. So thank you so much.
May I address that question also?
Of course. And then we're going to wrap up, I think, unless Mike.
This is a real important issue. I know that health costs keep rising for everyone. I would like to say, however, I'm very grateful for the medical facilities that are offered here in the Tri-Cities. I've used all three of the networks here. I find them to be very competent and very good. However, there is a shortage. There's a shortage of doctors. It takes for months to get an appointment. There's even a shortage of veterinarians in this town. This is a nationwide problem, and I don't know how to address it other than build more medical schools and train more doctors. That's what I would see as one solution. But it is something that we need to take on some personal responsibility. You know, I've always said you're your own best doctor. So I think you need to, from day one, practice good health yourself. Also teach your children to practice good health and maintain that throughout your life, so that maybe you don't have to go through all these things. One of the things I think causing a lot of our problems today are these synthetic chemicals that saturate our atmosphere and environment and water. And there's not much we can do about that. You know, here in this area, I understand the cancer rate is just skyrocketing. I don't know what all that's from. I do know there are a lot of synthetic chemicals used on our farmland around. And of course, we have the radioactive problems from the Hanford site. But anyway, there's money that needs to be sent in a prudent way to find out what the causes are here and to address those as best we can.
Did you want to do your closing real quick? It doesn't have to be 2 minutes. You can just kind of wrap up. And we had Stephanie go first. Patrick, you want to just wrap up real quick? And I'll time in, but it doesn't have to go 2 minutes. You can just kind of summarize everything that went on today.
You want me to start first?
Sure.
Okay.
You can do first.
Well, as you, the viewer, has watched us here and watched the questions that have been asked, you realize that we face a lot of problems in this country and locally too. I'm at the age where I'm not seeking fame or fortune anymore. I just want to try to help with what I can. There's no substitute for experience, and I'd like to bring my experience to the front here to help to address these questions at the state level, and certainly to make known to people the issues we do face and to offer them solutions, decisions that they can make to help us come up with the right solutions and spend the right amount of money for those solutions, and to do it in a democratic way that we've always done. I don't have all the answers, but I do solicit questions and comments from everyone so that we can better make our decisions and help everyone in the process.
Okay, great. That's perfect. Thank you. Okay, Stephanie.
Okay, I just to be respectful of time, we're already over a little bit, so I'll just reiterate and say thank you so much. I enjoyed this very much. We're all very kind and respectful, and I want to thank Patrick for how he's run his campaigning, and so if you have any other questions, let's go to Bobby.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you both so much for participating. This was really lovely chat. So it was really great to visit with both of you today. Thank you.